Okay, I thought what I would do is this is just a video on some of the changes that happened. This is the first full IFR panel that I've installed. And what it does have is it has the GNC355, the Navigator. This is for your IFR. It is an IFR certified piece, and it does have additional let me just turn them on. It has a comm radio in it too, so it gives you a second comm. This is the 305 autopilot head. The 307 had the knobs. I guess everybody's going to the 305, which is controlled completely by the G3X. It also has a G5, so that's your backup instrument. The G5, if you're not familiar, is a pretty cool piece of equipment in that it's totally standalone on its own. We are going to send it Pitot and static information into it, but it has its own ADAHRs and so forth into it, but it does tie into the G3X as a backup. And I haven't flown this system yet, so I'm still reading the 300-page manual for the Navigator and so forth and how it all ties in. But the way I understand it is if everything does internal checks and anything goes wrong, it'll automatically go to the backup. But there are some additional settings and some things that we have to do when we're putting this in. We have because the 355 kind of talks a little bit different to some of the things, as I understand it, we have to put in a GAD29, which converts some of the signals. I don't know if I can even see it. This is a Cub Crafters purchased Avionics package, so everything came installed. It's actually sitting here above the transponder, and that's something that's a little different from the standard one, because what it's doing, you can see all the lights are blinking. If you see the green lights and they're blinking on all your equipment, that means that the CAN bus system is talking and it understands everything. That's the ADAHRs. But you can go around to all your pieces and see if it's working properly or not. If it's green and blinking, that means it's communicating. So the GAD29 is one of the ways of converting some of the data. I understand it into a 429 language, so it talks, So anyway, to do this, you notice because of the panel space now, we don't have a radio here. So we went to the GTR20. The GTR200 is the one that's normally in here. This is a GTR20, which is a remote. And where we're going to mount it's different. You can see we're actually mounting it up here below the turtle deck. So what we've done is we've taken, this is a GMA245 audio panel, and then this is the GTR20, the radio. So you can see our flashing green there, so we're all good there. And you can see kind of some of the wiring. The green is flashing. You probably can't see it on here, but the green is flashing on there too. So it just kind of shows you all your communications are talking. But this is installed, obviously, because we don't have any room anywhere else. This is installed above the turtle deck. I'll just kind of show you how it goes. Again, this came from Cub Crafters, so everything was already pre-wired. I'll talk first a little bit about you have to do this panel. You can kind of see the layouts is a little different over here on the left side. We've also got heated Pitot. That's the heated Pitot for IFR operations in the clouds. So we put all that on the left side. That's our G5 and all of our breakers and so forth for it. And as we come across the top, you can see we've got our normal stuff. Our servos has moved up here, and down here we've got the GAD. That's what we put in, that GAD29, which talks, GPS and transponder there. To start with, one of the things that you've got to do is that this is then the Navigator. This is the 355. It's actually, you can see we have an antenna, and that is actually running its own comm. So it'll have a comm antenna. It's running up this header here. It'll go across here, and I've got it connected to an antenna here when I have it on. And it's just hanging down there because I was testing some of the intercoms and stuff a little bit ago. It'll come across here, and it's going to go to the wing root onto the wing. Now you'll have to you have to install, it's not like the standard deal, which has a dual antenna, which goes on the top with a comm and a GPS, which goes up here. It actually is going to have an antenna in each wing root on the back of the flap fault spar area where that metal is across there. You have to buy, I buy it, it's about $500 for the dual comm antenna kit. And what that's going to do is give you a couple of plates, metal plates, reinforcement plates with pre-drilled holes. It will rivet down onto the fault spar through one of the holes, and we'll put a 5-inch inspection cover on the bottom of the wing so we can come up underneath there and access the antenna to install it and to do the antenna connection. So you're going to have dual comm antennas, one on each wing root. This one on this side, on the right side of the aircraft, is going to be this one here that's coming from the 355. It's going to come on back here, come back here, and then it's going to go into the wing root and go up into the connect to the antenna. The one on the other side is then going to be the GTR20, the actual comm box, which will be right here. And this comm box, has an antenna. This antenna connection actually came pre-wired in the harness as a separate piece, but it came pre-wired, already had all the rounded on there. And this connects to this antenna, which again is going to end up connecting in the wing above the flap spar, fault spar area right there. So you'll have a comm antenna, this comm antenna off of this side, and you'll have the 355 off of that side, okay? So again, that's tying into the GMA245 audio panel, which is a really cool deal. I don't know if you can see it, it even has a USB built-in power port right there, so it's pretty accessible if somebody wanted to, from the back seat, or even you could from the front seat if you wanted to access it. The wiring harness comes completely completely built in. This is coming from this left tatter panel, and so it just continues on back, and it has the wires that then are going to go to this here, to the comm radio, and then over to this panel here. And this is kind of the routing. Now, when you get that kit, it's going to have, this is what all mine came with. Basically, they've told me at Comcraft they don't have any schematics to install any of this. So, well, I'm sure that's not correct. There obviously are schematics, or they wouldn't have put together a great wiring harness. But this was what it came with, the dual comm antenna and the information about installing the audio panel and the GTR20 in there. So this was basically this was really kind of nice. It just kind of showed a picture of mounting that tray, and then the routing of the wires that came up there to it. And then there's this piece here, and you can see, it kind of shows some stuff in here, how everything goes together. I've got both the audio panel and a VHF, the comm back there. And some of the stuff is right, some of the stuff's wrong. All this stuff here talks about putting a ground in, and there's no ground. I'll tell you, there's a new executive glass manual. These are the old ones that came out. There's a new one. I helped beta test, or went through the beta manual, and while it is very, very good, much more detailed, and it's very nice to work with, it seems to be based on some system that's really not in effect yet. It looks like they have modular pieces, so they'll have a modular piece that goes to here, a modular piece connects to that, then a modular piece that connects back there, then a modular piece that connects to that rear G3X, and they just aren't doing that yet. So that's not the way the harnesses are being built. So they've got some problems with it. They've got some areas that I'm giving them some feedback on it, because I used it for this build. So if it comes out, I imagine they'll correct it. I think they were, input period was back at the end of December, so it still hasn't come out yet. And this is the end of February of 2022. So it hasn't come out yet. So this is what we got. And it just kind of helped us install the tray that it mounts into, and the other, how to install the actual units onto the tray. So that should come with this all came with it. And again, the COM, they call it the dual COM connection kit or something like that. But there's 2 pieces of aluminum that their tapered edges are beveled down so they meet flush. You don't see it much because the fabric is actually going to go over them. My wings are at the hanger, so I can't show you. But that does install. They give good directions, a figure that comes with it showing you're just going to match drill a bunch, like 16 Cherry Max rivets down into the flat false spar metal, and it's got holes pre-cut. So then after you get done, you're just going to cut a hole in the fabric and you're going to install the antenna directly onto that ground plane connector kit. Okay, so that's the first part of it to think about, is don't cover your wings if you've got this system until you make sure you've got those plates installed over that flat false spar, because they got to go in there. So you'll be taking it apart and redoing it. Nobody told me any of this. I mean, there's absolutely 0 instructions on how to install this panel like this, okay? None. No, I have no schematics. I have not much direction from anybody, or wasn't much help from Cub Crafters. They kind of tried, I think, but all I heard was we don't have a schematic for this. So I'm gonna turn this panel back off just to save battery. And while we're talking about batteries, this is the battery that we've got. It's a little more expensive. I got it kind of tied down here. This is I think they call it SBJ. I can't see it. I've got the numbers posted on the forum. Odyssey batteries. I haven't gone to EarthX yet. I guess I'm just too lazy to really do the research on those. I know a lot of people are using them and they're lightweight and good, but Odyssey batteries are different. You can't use a standard battery charger with an Odyssey battery. Okay, you'll kill it. They make their own chargers. This is one of them right here. And the reason is when you start looking at them, it's hard to find this information out until you do a lot of digging. But Odyssey then tells you they have a different kind of a charge rate. They take, I believe it's a real high initial charge that comes from the charger to the battery, and then it levels off and does some, maintenance type stuff. But they're not that expensive. I forgot, I think on eBay is really where I found the best prices for them. But remember, you do need to have an Odyssey battery charger. A standard 12 volt, even a smart charger will not work right. I killed one on my last airplane or two, a couple of airplanes back before I remembered it. Also, I've got, this is my finish box as I'm working on stuff. When I run across things I'm finished using, or I know I'm going to just do on the finish at the hanger, I put them in this little box. This is something I bought from Odyssey. This is where I can actually, mount them to the batteries, and then have these sticking out the front, and then they just plug into these leads here. You can either have the alligator clips, or you can unplug it and have it clipped to this. So once you have the airplane, when I was just sitting in the hangar, I go ahead and plug it in, unless I'm flying like every day. Otherwise, I'll plug it in, and this will keep it on a maintenance charge. So you can get these from Odyssey, little pigtails that attach to the battery. You got a built-in fuse and everything. So those are pretty cool. So anyway, I just thought I would mention that about the battery. It's kind of nice I leave it here, because when I'm doing all the setups and everything and testing in here, I'll make sure I have the battery full and I keep it recharged all the time. Okay. So anyway, back there is going to be the tray that you're going to put in the panel. And that's it. If you've seen the other videos, I've already gone over videos about the avionics. So I'm not going to go over the whole avionics. I'm just going to try to touch on the differences of the things. So audio panel, GTR20. I'll just kind of go around here. You can kind of see what's going where. And they have told you here what goes where: GMA245, 401, and 402. Okay, then that's the radio, those pigtails. Okay. Everything on the side of these, you got dip settings. You even got an SD card holder there. All this stuff will actually update through the G3X. So when you do a G3X update through Garmin, Fly Garmin, it sends updates from everything to that you've got in the system. It updates it. I haven't found out yet whether it updates the 355. It actually has a separate database. So when you put the 355 in, over here has an SD card, and it actually came with a database that you can install. Okay, that was a database for the Americas. So you have to take that and load it up, and then I believe I'm only about halfway through the manual, pilot manual now, but I believe this has to be updated separately. It doesn't update through the G3X, and I'm not sure if you have to have a separate subscription for the maps and databases and stuff for this as you do with this. I don't know. When you subscribe to the G3X database, it upgrades everything. Their updates everything they've got. But for some reason, it's appearing as though the 355 might not be that way, but I can't say for sure yet. Okay. So, comm antennas, that tray goes up there. There's one antenna that comes off the 355, then it's different. It's gonna run down this side. Again, it's gonna go like this, you know, and just be set out of the way until we put the wings on, and then we'll run it through the backs of the tail ribs, where the tail ribs will come down here, where the flaps are. We'll run it from here in through the end of those ribs, and then attach it to the antenna, okay? So, when you get the G3X harness, what'll be different is that when it comes over to this side and comes up through here, then you're gonna have this additional bundle of wires that's gonna go to the back, okay? Which is going back to those. And you can see here how it's gonna route. It's just gonna go up here. It's probably gonna come, I'm waiting till I get the wings on, see how this goes. Probably gonna go under here. The same as the fuel line is gonna come up, then it routes over the top, and you can see how it routes down through here, and you can see how all this is in that paper on your hardware and all the installation of this tray, okay? So the normal panel, and if you look at my wiring chart and stuff too, when you didn't get this option for these articles back here, this panel here, this group of stuff here where you had to put in all your phone jacks and stuff, it had a ground wire that came off, and you had to install it here. And you'll see in the rest of my forum posts talking about the normal avionics harness and wiring. There's a ground wire that comes over here, and you actually put it underneath the screw when you're mounting your window hinges, which will go across here. So the bottom of your header panels are gonna be bolted here. So they apparently have put that ground wire in, and it's gone somewhere else. So there is no ground wire there. I think everything else out here is the same. I don't think there's anything different here. Now, when you get inside it's a standard G3X harness, but they have, it did come with everything already ready to go. In other words, all the pin connectors, like the G5 is separate, the pin connector is right there. It was all, wired into the main harness. The 355, of course, is the GAD29. Everything was all set to go. The only thing that wasn't really kind of told you is with the wires that came out of the G5, for example, it had two wires, forgot what color, looks like maybe they were green, but it had G5 positive and it had G5 negative. Okay, that was the same for all three of these pieces of equipment. That's the way it came, with separate wires. This was not built into the harness. The pins, the connector is with all the main wires, but the wires for the power were not. And that's the same for the G5, the 355, I believe the 305 transponder, autopilot controller. I believe those were the only three. But anyway, if you get wires that come off, it'll have like 355, it'll say like GNC355 plus and a GNC355 negative. The plus of any of those, it's just going to go to your breaker. Okay, so if it's the 355 breaker, then it's going to go to the GNC, breaker, the plus, and then the negative is just going to a ground. Okay. Now, also, the tray came with something a little different. They came with these 2 screws here. Well, they're actually just bolts, and it came with a ground wire. So I took the ground wire, ran it from this bolt on the bottom over to the normal ground lugs, which are right here, which are those 4 screws that are mounted to the, hardly see them now, they're so full. But they had, by adding these additional grounds, they didn't have enough room on these, so they added those bolts. So several of the wires had to go around to the bottom. See, those are additional ground wires. So that's what those 2 screws are. I figured out all of by my lonesome. So that's pretty much it on it. There was a wire, I believe this one right here, I believe it was a servo wire. So the servo wire, I think the servos used to be down over here, on this side of the panel, down at the bottom. So they moved the servo switch, which turns on your servos for your autopilot. That wire was too short. It was coming out of the panel over here. I think it was originally designed to go here. You could probably cut all these wires back and pull it out of the harness and come back around. I just attached, you can see here, I just attached another little short piece of wire. It just needed a few inches to get up to that servo switch, okay? And the power buses were different because the buses are different. And when you get the new G3X executive glass, they were very good at showing the routing of those wires. I think there might have been 1 or 2 that weren't on there. But if you recall, if you look at my other video, I explain in detail about we're bringing power into the buses, which are the buses. So every bus bar's got to have a power coming in, just the bar itself. And then every switch obviously has to have power in, and then the other side will go to whatever it's controlling. The other difference, there are a couple of other wires. And if you look, I'm going to post my updated, this is the regular wiring harness, and I've gone through it, I've made notes, and I'm going to make a separate page for these, because there are some wires which are not used. You're just going to cap and stow, which were still part of the harness but are not needed for this. But I will post them. I will post an updated wiring chart, just like I did. I did this wiring chart for the standard panel, and then for the new modular panel, I came out with a page on the back, which went over these are all the changes just for the modular panel. A lot of these are the same, but there are several wires that will not be used just because, for example, not used. Used by the ignition. So that one right there, like for example, IG08C200, which is by the ignition switch, capping and stowing it. And the reason is because there's other ones. But I'll update that. There's radio wires that was designed for the 200, and there's no GTR20 radio there. So they've actually eliminated the wires out of the panel, so they're not even there. So they're on the original wiring chart, but they're not used here. Anyway, there's another one that's used another wire instead of capped and stowed this wire. So in any case, I will do an updated wiring chart showing the changes to the main chart, because my main wiring chart is for the standard panel. And then if you get the new modular panel, which is basically designed to put a G5 in, on the left side will be the round cutout already prepared for it in breaker spaces in the panel. Then I've got those, they changed the wiring harness, and I'll do an update for this wiring harness. Now, I've posted this already. I copied this and I put it into the forum post where I talk about doing configurations and stuff. I have a special section where if you're going to do this, this settings are for the G3X, GNC355, et cetera, et cetera. So when you go into the configuration mode, and I've got a whole forum post on that. I think it's number 73, but I'm not sure. But if you go in there, there's a whole post on how to set up all your configurations in the G3X. After you get it all wired up, you have to configure it. Now, I have another note in there, and I say, if you're doing this, then here are some additional settings you need to do. So you'll see here, like in the G3X, in the GTU465, which is the display, here, go to the RS232 PFD tab and make these settings to here. These are the different ports, which will be different from the main panel. Then the ARINC429, that's where the GAD29 I was talking about. That's stuff, some more communication that you can see here, that's doing some outputs, sending the EFIS and air data format 1, and then on input 1, it's Garmin GPS. So I think that's the G5A it's talking to. But anyway, audio panel, it tells you there how to go through the audio panel, comm radio, how you set those up. So you got 1 and 2, and transponder settings there, G5 settings, GNC355. Now the G5 and the 355 are set up at the unit themselves. They're not set up in the configuration panel on the G3X display. These, you have to go to the G5, go to the menu, and down where you see RS232, just set it to map MX. And then on the GNC355, which you hold the knob while you power up, then the setup, and then go to interfaces, and you'll see these options. These are where some more ARC429 configuration pages, 232 config, and then main indicator. Okay, so this is posted in the forum just like this. You'll have these in there. Also, what is different is because of the G5, this is a part I copied out of the new beta test manual, which isn't out yet. But basically what it's showing is this is the Pitot static routing if you've got a G5. See, G5 or other panel instrument. So you can see here what's changing is that we're splitting off. The G5 wants some pitot air information. It also wants static air information. So we're going to do some splits before we get to the Adahars. So essentially, this is their Adahars where we mount it. The factory mounts them out in the wing for some reason, which nobody seems to know why. I even asked again about it the other day, and Pete didn't know. So in any case, this is the blue, green, and that's static, okay? So the static has an elbow, and I put a T here. This is normal. This is going to come out, goes underneath here. I've just got it ready to go. See here, when I put the boot cowl on, I'll cut it to fit to go just into the static port. I've already got the little clamp that's impossible to use. They'll go to this static port, and then it goes back out to this direction. When it comes to this direction, then I take it over here, and the bottom input to the G5 is for the static. So you can see here, I put another T, and it runs into the G5. So then this one on this side of the T is the same thing as for the left side, or the port, static port. How about that? Port, static port. So the left side. So that's how we do it. We just split off, and this is fine. This is the way the factory, Pete did send me some photos and show me kind of how the factory does. It's different because their Adahars stuff is going out there to the wing, where ours is right here, but it showed the same thing. You don't have to split it and then go to Adahars and then go to here. You can just put it right in line. It's all going to equalize out. Anyway, it did the same thing with the pitot. So the blue is the pitot. We just bring it across here. Right here, I just did another T, ran it back off, put it in the top of the G5, and then on it continues up this pillar, and then we'll cut them off there, and they'll connect to the wing ones that we put in when we did the wings. Okay, so you got your green, which is your angle of attack. That's going to your AOA tube on your pitot, and that's there. Now we also have a heated pitot system, and you can see here, it's right there, right here. So we've got a switch with an annunciator light, orange light, just like the backup battery and the fuel pump. These are all orange lights, LEDs, and the breakers are right underneath each respective one. So you turn the pitot heat up, boom, the light should come on. Now, when it came from the factory, this was already installed, the switch. So the switch had off of the breaker, it had a little wire that goes back up to the light. So the light was basically wired to the breaker right there. And it has another wire going somewhere. I have no schematics, so I don't know where the other wire is coming out of that light. Be interesting to find out. Maybe it goes to the G3X and gives you some indicators. I don't know. But in any case, then this will also come with 2 wires. Okay, so 2 wires will be coming out of here, and where are they at? It's right here. Yeah. So that white one right here, and that is basically going to the positive side because that's your switch. Okay, so in the pre-cover wire, when you get the when you buy the heated Pitot, you'll get another little kit that'll have 2 wires that's running down the wing. Okay, and it's going to, you actually have 3, I guess. It'd be like 3 wires. Or no, you have 2 wires going down the wing, but coming out the heated Pitot itself, the heated Pitot has 2 heating elements in it too. So you'll have a negative, and you're gonna have 2, they call them banded. They put black bandings on the 2 positives coming out of the Pitot. So those 2 are gonna go together and go to the 1 positive that's going down the wing, and then you'll have your 1 negative coming out of the other side. So one wire out of here, running up to here, which will then connect later to the wing and go down and connect to the Pitot. These are the 2 wires, I believe, right here. Yeah, they are. And yeah, right there, see where it says Pitot positive is backwards, but that's what that says. And you got Pitot negative right there. So these came in the pre-cover kit or the wiring kit. So I ran these from here down to here. The negative just went to a ground. The positive just goes to that circuit breaker or the switch right there. And then when that goes up to there, we'll just connect those at the wing root. Okay. And I'm thinking that's about it. Like I say, I'll go ahead and I'll change the wiring diagram, and I'll have a page. I'll actually go through and show you exactly which wires did things differently. And guess that'll be it. Can't think of anything else. So just to show you too, though, right quick, this was the fuel pump wire. We talked about that as part of the regular harness. One of the things I finally decided to do, they made this a little longer, but it still was too short. These ends here have to solder, goes through the boot cowl, through the firewall like this, and then they have to solder, and they just weren't long enough. They were right here, as you can see, so I end up always trying to pull it and reach it, and if something goes wrong, it doesn't get a good solder joint, it's back under the boot cowl. So I just go ahead and extended it out, put a length of wire, so basically got myself plenty of room to go to the fuel deal. So anyway, I think that's it for the differences. It's should be a cool panel from everything I'm reading on it. It sounds like it's going to be really pretty neat. See ya.